Hi there, and welcome to the Homestead Education Podcast. Do you have a homestead, farm, or just dream of a rural life? This is a show to help you and your kids grow your own food and grow as a person. I'm your host, Kody Hanner. I'm a homesteader, homeschool mom of six, and small town enthusiast. I was raised by an old school rancher and blessed by the grace of God to have been exposed to so much of what rural life has to offer. Join me every week to talk about homesteading, homeschooling, and growth with a homestead education. Hi, and welcome back. I just want to remind you that you can get all my homestead science books on my website and many on Amazon for a new way of teaching agriculture to today's youth and aspiring homesteaders by focusing on small-scale farming and self-sufficiency. If you're a school or co-op or retailer and need invoicing, please feel free to reach out to me directly. So I just want to remind everybody about Homestead Trivia. We are going to be shipping them out in time for Christmas. If you want to go ahead and get that order in, if you're listening right when I launch this or put out this podcast, it's actually going to be only $32 for the bundle. So you want to make sure that you're grabbing that right away to make sure you have it by Christmas, because it's going to be a fun gift or stocking stuffer for any age. We have kids and adults. The kids ones are a lot of fun because I even have 72 picture questions for those kiddos that really want to participate and kind of know their stuff, but can't read to ask the question or to answer it. So that makes it a lot of fun. And I think I talked to you guys a little bit about our calf being born on the last episode. I know I took last week off because I had a friend in town that, as a homesteader, you don't get to spend a lot of time with friends in general. And then you add on top of that, that I moved far away from all of my family and friends to North Idaho. And so I don't really get to see them a whole lot. So getting to have my friend and her kids here for, it was like 9 days. Oh, it was wonderful. I mean, it was the kids, like they worked together, they played together, they got to learn a whole bunch of new skills. My friend and I just really got a chance to catch up, and it was really hard to see them go. But hopefully they'll be back soon for a visit, or if I have it my way, permanently. But we all know how that goes. If you do have a friend that you're trying to convince to move this holiday season, though, keep in mind that I have a Homesteader's Guide to Relocating, and it talks about how to move, how to get financing, and it has a chart of all the states with their homeschool and like homeschool laws and like food freedom type laws to know where you can get your best homeschool and homestead state. I'll go ahead and link that. That just kind of came up out of nowhere, but might as well put that plug in, right? Um, so yeah, I talked about the calf a little bit. We are now getting milk on a regular basis, which, daily we do once a day milking with calf share. Some people don't like doing that because of like contamination risk and things like that, but we try to keep it as clean as possible, but it's really hard to milk twice a day. And honestly, the cow that we're currently milking, she's a lower producer. Um, and we're okay with that because she's more of our family cow. When our other heifer calves sometime in the next 6 weeks, she's going to be a higher producer, and we're also going to be selling the milk. So if we see a need for milking twice a day to be able to up those numbers, what we usually do is bottle feed the calf a lot of times off of our lower producer one because we just can't go through enough milk from her anyways. So then at least it's not going to waste. Of course, we never really let it go to waste. We'll feed it to the pigs or something. But that's what we're doing with our cows right now. I am feeling a little under the weather. I've had a few days of just kind of a little bit of a stomach bug, like some lightheadedness, achy body, those types of things. I'm doing all my normal tricks, lots of B12 and electrolytes, and I'm just not bouncing back as fast as I'd like, which is really hard for um like someone who's an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. Like I want to work, I want to work all the time. I get done working for the day and everybody pulls out their cell phones or turns on the TV for evening time, and I pull out my work again because that's what I'd rather be doing. And my head's been really foggy where it's been hard to even sit down and really focus on what I need to do. And so I'd like to say I'm going to try to keep this episode short, but I think I've said that before and it doesn't really work. Those are usually my longest ones. So I don't know. You'll be as surprised as I am. I did put together some notes because what I want to talk to you about today is the logistics of running a homestead business. And that's what we've been working on a lot lately. We do spend a lot of time in the winter just kind of revamping, replanning, reorganizing our businesses because that's our slowest time, that we're not shipping, we're not dealing with a lot of animals. I mean, we have animals this time of year, but it's not quite the same. It's um, just lower things that need to be done. Like, all of our sows are pregnant. We have only had one cow calve. The rest of them won't be calving. The first one will be in 6 weeks. The next one won't be for a couple more months. We had like a staggered breeding this round. Um, and then also I don't ship as much with the homestead education business in my books. It's just a slower time of year, which I don't love. And I mean, that's just the nature of homeschooling. And as somebody who is kind of a multi-passionate, and I joke that I have seasonal depression, because I don't know if I actually do or if I just need more sunshine. I don't know. I've been taking some vitamin D to try to compensate for that. If you have any tips, let me know. Like, please just like spam my email because I go through this every year and it's really frustrating. And growing up in California and then moving to North Idaho, um, it's even more challenging because I don't get the sun that I did or would get when I lived in California, even in the summertime here. So, yeah, definitely spam me with those. I've looked into like sauna and the infrared lights, a little bit out of my price range right now, but it might be something that's worth it. So, anyways, yeah, as somebody who runs two seasonal businesses and then gets seasonal depression, and the slow time is during my seasonal depression, that makes it like extra worse because then I'm like, oh, how am I gonna like afford all my bills? And then I'm extra depressed. And so it's a, I mean, I don't know if depressed is the right word, but just down, definitely blue. I feel it. I'm more tired. I don't feel as motivated. But then there's this other part of me that's a multi-passionate where I'm always wanting to do something. And I'm always thinking of new ideas and I'm excited for the next thing. I mean, maybe that's ADHD. That's definitely ADHD. But anyways, and I'm not just joking, like I actually have it. But I was diagnosed about 15 years ago. However, kind of what I'm getting at with that is then I also, during this slow time, it gives my brain a lot of time to think about other things. And I start thinking about all the things I want to do with my business, the next thing I want to write, the next product we should have on the farm, it's the slow season. We should build rabbit hutches and start raising rabbits. And I feel like a lot of my fellow like homestead homeschoolers, business owners kind of are the same way. Like we all kind of have that like bounce from one thing to the next, like the next big project. And so, you know, my brain is saying like we have to do like 8,000 things today, and my body is saying, wouldn't a nap be nice? And so I definitely struggle during this time. And so talking about the logistics of running a homestead business, that is going to play really heavily with each other for pretty much like everybody. Not everybody, but I mean, I when you have those logistics, I definitely want to talk about how you can kind of combine that. Um, so first off, what you kind of need to understand is that there's not a regular paycheck. Anytime you're running your own business, I mean, there's the opportunities for putting into place contracts and stuff like that where you know what's coming next. The nature of both of my businesses, for the most part, is I don't know when I'm getting paid next. I definitely have enough product in place and I do enough marketing where sometimes everything flows really great. And, I know that I have pigs going to the butcher on the 15th and I already have people paying for them, or I have people that have been making payments on them. And there's just that good constant flow, with my books. I know that, once we get into homeschool buying season, that I'm going to have a lot. I do invoicing to larger schools and things like that. And so I know that I have checks coming, but there are times when it's literally from one package of sausage and one digital download is getting us through the week. And that can be a lot, like a lot on anybody. And I think that many of us who are running homestead businesses, we are selling product like from our farm, and a lot of us also have digital products to kind of compensate for those things. And you have to figure out that balance. Um, so like the best advice I can get is make sure only one of those businesses is seasonal. Just to be really honest. Um, the next one is when you're running a farm, literally your product could die. I mean, I know with other businesses, there's things to consider, like equipment can shut down, you can have like a flood, all sorts of things. I have literally like had a pig going to butcher, had the money lined up for the pig. Everything was a go. I was counting on that money. Go up to the barn and she's dead. I no clue no clue, none whatsoever. I mean, I have some suspicions, but it wasn't like anything we did, or I mean, it was just like, are you kidding me? Like, how do you sustain that way when that can happen at any point? And I mean, really, every farmer is feeling that way. If you have a field of wheat in and a storm comes through and kills all your wheat, you have nothing to sell that year. Now, there are agriculture subsidies in place federally, which I think is really great because it does take the farmers to feed the nation. And if farmers aren't making money or producing product, I mean, literally people starve. And so, yes, sometimes they're getting paid for crop that died, and so, I mean, there's money going out to the farmer and no product going out to the people. But what that does do is it makes it where that farmer can stay in business for another year and be able to grow crops the next year. And a lot of times, especially with grains, we're actually running off of the previous year, even a couple year back, um, inventory and stock. So, uh, a lot of those things come into play. But when you, as a homesteader, if I have a pig die, I'm just out of grand. Like, I mean, that's all there is to it. I mean, it cost me several hundred to raise that pig up. Then I have a paycheck lined up, and then I don't have any product to send to butcher. Um, that's it. Like there's no ag subsidies for that. Um, I have to figure out something else to sell or another way to pay my bills. Another one is marketing can be really tricky with a homestead business. Um, a lot of products you can't market in normal ways. Like my books, I can advertise, doesn't matter, I can advertise them anywhere. With food or live animals, there's a lot of rules and logistics to that. And sometimes it's simply just um changing the way you word things to sell something, but it's not a surefire way of being able to market your product. So, I mean, even for us right now, the market is a little saturated with piglets and whole hogs in our area. We had a deficit for a long time, and now a lot of people saw the deficit, which is good because we couldn't keep up. We were at one point one of like two pig and pork producers in our county. Um, but what happened is at the moment there's a little bit of um the market's a little flooded. Like there's a lot of farms in our area that only have one sow. So she's maybe having 1 or 2 litters a year. It helps them out a little bit financially. We're running 10 sows. So, I mean, that's a whole operation. That's a full business, not kind of a side thing. And so it kind of, those people who have one sow, they may expand and get more sows, or they may do that for a few years and decide that that's not what they're interested in. And we're going to see that fluctuation happen over the years where right now everyone's going, oh, the market's flooded. I'm just going to get out of raising pigs. If they have a bad year, they lose a litter or something. Oh no, it's not worth it for me. And they're going to disappear. And what's going to happen is there's going to be another deficit. But for us, the fact that we want to keep growing, that's why we've decided to do the direct to consumer pork. And that's been a huge different way, like a whole nother like learning curve. I've ran an online business for several years now. And I've ran a semi direct to consumer pork business. And when I say semi direct to consumer, like we never send our pigs to auction, but when I'm selling piglets as one of our biggest income streams, then I definitely consider that um more of a like the same model as just taking like a bunch of piglets to auction. Of course, I take piglets to auction. I'm making $25 a piece for them. I sell them locally and I'm making 200 a piece. Like it's a huge difference. And it's because people know the health of the animal and things like that that you don't always get going to auction. Um, then I've sold whole hogs and half hogs. We've been doing retail for about a year now, but it's been just like, little bits here and there. This year, we are really focusing on selling our retail cuts, our boxed, value boxes. And I mean, I pretty much have everything in place to start shipping. We're just waiting on a few extra things on our website. I need to um, order some insulated coolers to be able to ship a little, to ship safer. You always have to use the insulated coolers. Right now, we ship so little of that. I'll just run down to the store and grab one when we get an order because our site isn't up, so it's just word of mouth. Um, Once our site does go up, though, I'll need to have like a pallet of those. So I need to order that. That's gonna be about $400 or $500 to get a pallet in. And so there's just, there's all these things that you just don't think about. I even when I was thinking about running the business or starting to ship, I was like, okay, I know how much it costs to ship stuff. I know how much it costs us to do retail. I know how much I need to charge per pound, so on and so forth. And then I get into what the prices of these styrofoam liners are, and I was like flabbergasted. I mean, really small ones are like $20 a piece. I mean, that almost doubles what I would have to charge for pork like per pound. I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Like I will find another way because even though there are people out there that charge that much, our whole goal in this has always been able to get farm fresh meat into the average family's hands. Like we're not trying to just sell to like foodies in big cities. We're wanting to sell to the average family that maybe can't the reason they don't buy farm fresh meat is because they can't come up with the, $1,200 that it costs to buy a whole hog. But they can come up with the $300 or $400 that it would cost to buy a quarter hog. And that still, is a big chunk of meat to go into someone's freezer. It's like 40 pounds of meat. And so I really, that's been my goal is to keep that affordable. So I've done my research. I've looked at what I have to invest to be able to buy large enough in bulk to be able to provide those prices that I still want to provide. Um, so But what I found is when you look into marketing and selling food, I know that there's laws surrounding it and I understand why the laws are there, but I swear it's harder to sell food than it is like hazmat materials. And as a previous food safety specialist, I always was like, oh yeah, we have to keep food locked down. Like it's the only way to keep the masses safe. And in a lot of ways it is, but I think that a lot of that money could be spent more on community relations and community education to be able to provide a healthy product out of our own communities and not have, all the food miles on it and things like that. And let's face it, food is a basic human right. But I also still need to be able to support my family. But I can't sell my butchered meat to my neighbor legally because it's not like USDA and I haven't, which my meat is now USDA, but I'm just as an example, if I butchered a pig myself, or even if I butchered it using um like my local butcher shop, I can't sell that legally to anybody. I have to go through a USDA. And so, I mean, and then that's going to cost me another 50% more to have it butchered. And it just makes it where it's trying to like strangle out the small farmer. Um, but getting into where you can actually like navigate some of these logistics. The first thing that you need to do is decide what you want to sell. And I mean, really decide what you want to sell. And sometimes that can be one thing or that can be everything. And I'm big on diversification. Like, I think you need to have lots of streams of income and not just lots of streams of income, as in, like, I have two or three different businesses, but I also, like, I even has said before, like, I sell piglets, I sell show piglets, which are out of my purebred herd, and I provide the required vaccines and education for the kids. Um, I sell whole hogs and half hogs, like bulk to consumers. I sell the retail. So there's a lot of different streams of income just from my product pigs. So then we also sell other things. We sell milk, we sell butter, which right there, like that's a diversification of two different products. We sell breeding stock of everything when we have it, or have extras. We also, I sell plant starts in the spring because if I start 100 and only need 50 of them, no point in just composting them if I can make a few extra dollars. So we kind of are on that model of we sell everything with our main focus being on pigs. The rest is residual. And they've helped us get through some hard times. In fact, you can listen to one of my early podcast episodes called How I Saved My Struggling Homestead. And I'll link that in the show notes, but it's literally how I took like a $1 packet of seeds and started our pig herd. And it didn't happen overnight, but it happened really quick. Like I was able to do it um, from like February to August. And then by December, I was bringing in big money off of our herd. So um, it's real and you can do that. So if you want to like hear all the steps of how I did that and like how we marketed it and stuff, like definitely go check out that website. Next, you need to decide what kind of business model you really want to have. Like, are you wanting to do like a homestead, hobby farm style, or more of a commercial homestead, small farm style? And I mean, I consider us definitely in that commercial window, but we're still a homestead. Like, we're raising a little bit of everything. We're feeding ourselves, and the practices that we follow is more regenerative and things like that that follow into that homestead model. So, if you're just looking for a way to make a little money off your hobbies, or you've always wanted a milk cow and you want to save up for that, so you're going to sell vegetables to save up for a milk cow, I mean, great, do it. um you can definitely make money that way, and when it's not one of the ways of supporting like your whole family, then I mean, enjoy yourself. Like that's definitely the way to do it. Make sure you're still profitable, um because there's, you're like, I want to sell goat milk soaps as like, what do they call it? Here's where my sick comes in. My brain doesn't work. It's a value added product. So I mean, there's goat milk, and then there's goat milk soap, which is worth more, like, pound for pound as a soap, but people are going to consume more milk on a regular basis than they do soap. So it's kind of they always say to use your fresh milk for soap, but you don't want to use all of your fresh milk and then have no fresh milk to sell customers when that could be a regularly generated income. So what I would suggest doing on that is if you have people on like a membership where you're selling, 5 quarts a week, anything you get over that 5 quarts is what goes towards your soap, and you just plan it that way. And then if you have somebody else who wants to sign up for your membership, then you decide if it's worth it to have another membership or to be able to continue making your soaps. So then you're actually making soap with your excess or what you might end up normally throwing away or something, or, feeding back. Um, and then you have to look at the price of, any soap colorings, uh, scents, anything that you're going to add to it, and see if it's actually worth it to make that money, or if you can buy those products at low enough cost to make it worth it. Because otherwise, you're just financing your soap making hobby with your dairy goats, but you aren't actually making enough of a profit to save money to buy that dairy cow that you've been saving up for. So you just kind of have to look at those aspects of it. Whereas on the flip side, we're running a commercial farm. we have to look at it differently. Like I do not go buy sacks of feed from like the retail feed store. I would go broke if I tried to do that. I have to buy 1 ton totes of feed from the local feed mill. Like I go direct to the source. I'm not buying it from a store. And I have to have, like my husband's flatbed, or we have a flatbed trailer and they load it onto the trailer. We bring it home. We actually don't have a tractor that can actually get it off the trailer. So we'll leave it on the small trailer until we're ready to buy more, or and when it gets low, we'll drag it off the trailer. A lot of people have ways to pull it off the trailer, but we do have a cover that we park the trailer under. So, there's a lot of those logistics that people just don't think about. Um, but yeah, I would absolutely go broke if I tried to feed store feed to my pigs. And I mean, honestly, it just wouldn't be feasible. I mean, for us to go buy the tonnage that we need, regardless of the price, like the time that would take to like load it into the truck and unload it when we're doing it all by hand versus being able to just place it on a tote. I mean, that could save us half a day's worth of work. Um, then you also want to decide if you want to consider going as like an LLC or a partnership or something like that on your farm, because there are tax breaks to that. So if your farm is actually making enough money that you are showing a profit, depending on where you're at, that could knock you out of your current tax bracket and make it where you actually owe a lot of money. What having an LLC can do is make it where, like, normally they would look at your revenue, tax you on that, and then you subtract your expenses. Whereas with an LLC, you subtract your expenses and they tax you on your profit. That makes a huge difference. Then to look into marketing, I mean, I mentioned marketing a little bit before, and kind of from this point in my conversation, I actually have a how to start a homestead business guide, planning guide, and it takes you through each of these steps and how to research it and how to take notes and how to refer back to that. And there's a few other things that covers how to like figure out your budget and stuff. But marketing is a big one because most of our farm marketing happens on the local level. And so you need to look at how to do that, how to word it, um, and how to educate, because it's not like you're just saying, I have pork, come get it. When people say the price tag that, I go to the store right now and it costs me over $5 for a pound of sausage, and I sell it for 6.50 a pound. So that's really not a huge difference. But some of the cuts are a larger difference, or some people are like, well, I can go to Walmart and get sausage for $3 a pound. And I'm like, well, then go to Walmart and get sausage for $3 a pound. But if you want a healthier product for your body and you want to support local economy, and my pigs are fed a non-GMO meat and or a meat, a non-GMO feed. They're heritage breeds, not like the pasture pigs, but like Berkshires and Herefords that still have marbling in their meat. So if you buy like a pork chop from us, it looks like a pork steak. It's really beautiful. So having that type of education for your customers is a huge part of um being able to actually sell your product and having a way for them to get it. Like, um, locally, like you can come to our house, but we live 27 miles from town. People still love coming here, because it's more like there's an adventure with it. But my kids do youth group every Tuesday night, and so we are going to be in town every Tuesday evening at a certain gas station while the kids are at youth group. And my husband and I, we take our orders into town and we sit there and chat, or there's a little restaurant there and we'll go in and get dinner or something. But people know that every Tuesday night they can get meat from us. So we make that really convenient. And also they say like in this, it used to be somebody has to see something 7 times before they purchase it. And at this point, they're saying it has to be in the 20s because everything happens so fast. I mean, there's reels, there's Instagram posts, there's Facebook, there's, little short ad clips. Those are the things that like people need to see a lot before they ever commit to buying something. So I even know personally on my farm page, I think, oh my goodness, like I don't want to post the same thing 5 times this week, nobody's going to want to follow me. But the thing is, I found that, social media posts only have a lifespan of like 24 to 48 hours. Whereas, your email list and Pinterest and things like that, they have like a 4 month. Well, maybe not your email list, but your email list, you own that. You can always be sending them stuff and you could be letting them know about the sales that you have once a week, but also, giving them recipes and that type of thing where they're going to stick with you and then eventually be like, okay, I want to buy it. Pinterest is the same idea. Um, I mean, you could post 1,000 times a day on there. I mean, maybe not 1,000, but what it is people don't know if it's you posted it that many times or if somebody's resharing it. I mean, yeah, they can see, but they aren't really looking. So that's a great way to get your stuff out there, especially if you ship locally. That was me dropping my phone. So then, I always suggest having a 3-year plan. And so what a 3-year plan does is the first year, you want to feed your family. So you want to grow enough that you're feeding your family, or produce enough or whatever. And whether that means you're feeding your family off your product or you're making and selling enough that you have an excess to feed your family. And that's if you're trying to have this blended homestead setup. Um, if you are saying like, no, I want a full-blown beef operation and so on and so forth. I mean, it takes 2 years to butcher your first steer. So, I mean, minimum, depending on how you start with parents. So sometimes that is not quite the same model, but if you're like, hey, we're already kind of growing our own food, and I think that there's a market for selling my milk. So your first year, you want to make sure that you're actually able to produce enough to feed yourselves, that you get into the routine with it, that you work out all the details. And if there's excess, you're selling it. Or like I said, if there you start with excess right off the bat, that you're selling enough that it's covering some of your other expenses for your home. And then the next step, like then you can use your knowledge, your skills, and possibly you've got everything in place, you have a routine in place, you have the money in place, hopefully some excess funds to be able to scale the next year. And your goal is, to be able to sell most of your product, that you have a routine in place, that you're selling these products, that you're actually be at the end of the year, wow, I made an income. This was a profitable endeavor. And I'm not talking like at the end of the year, I wasn't in the red. Yay. Um, Unless like you invested, say your year was going so good, selling milk and you had such a high demand that you decided to buy another milk cow and a milk cooler, and then you're in the negative. I don't think that counts. You made a savvy investment. But if you take those out of the equation and you see that you actually made $1,000 a month on your milk endeavor, you're like, wow, that's actually like if I had a part-time job, that's what it would make. And I'm able to like be home with my family and or whatever it is that your goals are. I mean, that right there makes it where year 2, you are in a good situation. Then year 3, you should have a plan going into that to have this function like a business. You should have your bank accounts in place. You should have your, if you don't already, your website in place. But I understand that sometimes it takes a little while to build these things up. Like I didn't have a Homestead website for the first year. I just functioned off of social media. But then when I want to reach a larger area, I want to have e-commerce products, then I had to have a website in place. And then I was still having everything just come into like our personal accounts. And then I said, okay, I want to start being able to like ship my meat and have an account just to be able to function for that business and for it to be able to operate. So then I went and got, my business account, bank account. So, like I said, year 2, you should have enough of a profit that you can go into year 3 as a functioning business with revenue, with the majority of the things that you need in place to be able to have this be a comfortable business. Like, for example, if you're like, I'm making a ton of money but I'm hand milking my cows and I have more customers and I want to get more cows, that would mean more milking or longer time milking. Is your time better spent marketing your product or is your time better spent milking for 4 hours a day? And so then maybe you should consider buying a milker, maybe hiring a part-time like homeschooled teenager or something that would be willing to come over and milk or do some of your other barn chores so that you can milk. Those are the things that you want to start considering and budgeting for as you go into year three. Because by year three, your business should be running theoretically at peak performance so that you can look at where you want to scale that business or maintain it where it's at. You shouldn't still be fixing equipment. You shouldn't still be um nickeling and diming. I mean, let's face it, we've all had endeavors that look like that, but that's not where you want to be. And when I say year one, two, and three, if you're going into a cattle operation, year one might be we finally have a steer to butcher. We're putting half in our freezer and we're selling the other half. Yay for us. Year two is our first crop of calves are ready to go, but in order to have enough revenue, half the calves have to go to auction and the other half we're going to raise out for direct to consumer. And then year three, you should have enough funds to raise that you're able to be raising the next crop of calves completely as direct to consumer because you're butchering year three steers, which year three steers would actually be like born in year one. I don't know if that makes sense, but year three steers that year, which you only have half of them, but when you're selling retail versus taking them to auction, you're making double, triple, sometimes four times as much selling it as retail cuts. But if you haven't been putting all that marketing into place, you're going to have however many steers as retail cuts, paying for them to be butchered, nowhere to store them, nowhere, no customers to send them to. Like you have to have that all going and you're building it a little at a time. Unless you have the funds to, go out and buy your first crop of yearlings and raise them out. But I don't have that kind of funds and most people don't. Or if they are doing it that way, they're leasing land, they're leasing mama cows, it's a whole different model. And so I'm kind of talking like that grassroots starting from scratch homestead model. And then if you want to add any online products, you have to make sure that you can legally ship them. So online products, when you're looking at a farm versus a website, I'm not just talking about like digital downloads and courses and things like that. I'm also talking, can you like we're going to ship our meat or shipping soaps or whatever it is, you need to make sure that you can legally ship those outside of your state. Or actually most of the time, any type of going into the shipping system. Um, Meat has to be USDA. Raw milk, like that's a no, you just don't ship that. Um, I think people can buy it and take it over state lines because as long as you're buying it legally, it doesn't matter where you have it. Some states might be different. Cottage foods, like breads and things like that. You can't ship those as a cottage food. You have to have a food processing facility. And sometimes that's just having a commercial kitchen. And I say just, but a decent shop with the right setup can be a commercial kitchen versus you can't cook breads in your own kitchen and then ship those over state lines legally, especially for sale. I'm sure there's grandmas shipping cookies to their grandkids at Christmas, and that is okay in my book. I don't know if it's legal, but it's okay in my book. And you're not selling them, it's a gift. Um, and then if you're looking into those online, the digital products, those are really great because technically there's no overhead. I mean, there's running your business, your time that you spent making it, maybe you paid for like a graphic design software, but you pay $100 a year to have a software, and a lot of times you turn around and make that with your first sale. So I just don't consider that overhead in the same way. If you're going to be running a business, you're going to have those costs regardless. Um, I sell my digital products. I actually, if I have a printed version of that, I try to offset the price of the printed version by knowing that I'm going to sell digital copies to keep the price lower for everybody. So I mean, pricing is a whole nother conversation, but they generally say that your price should be set at four times what it costs you to produce it. And that should include labor too. But I know as entrepreneurs, we don't consider that a lot. Um, But for me, if I had to hire a whole time full-time person and considered that in my production costs, that I would almost have to double what I charge because just being a small business, there's no way to distribute that money big picture. Versus, so I look at that as what I pay for the books to have them produced for me. That is my labor cost. And then I consider, then um you the double to triple it for wholesale and then quadruple it for retail. And that's where the money comes in for my labor and my marketing. And then that last little bit is what goes in the owner's pocket. And that's what a lot of people don't understand or realize is how much goes into all of this. I mean, my business, I added it up the other day because I was doing some marketing stuff. I've sold 15,000 copies, whether that's digital or printed, of Introduction to Homestead Science. Um, that's a lot for a small business. And I run it. I my daughter always gives me the stink eye when I say this, but I run the business on my own. She, however, does like 90% of my shipping. She gets me ready for conferences. She's great at it. She goes and works conferences with me. And then I do pay somebody to do some of my online, digital marketing and things like that because I physically just do not have the time to do it. But what it comes down to is I am managing all of those pieces all the time. Like my daughter ships, but she's not the one making sure that the stock's here. She's not budgeting to make sure the stock's here. She's not, talking to the customers to let them know if something's running late. She's not making sure we have all the shipping boxes, like all those extra pieces. She just literally, like, I'm like, you need to ship today. And she comes and pulls up the program, prints out labels, and packs them, which is fine. That's a perfect job for her. She gets paid for it. But bottom line is, I'm still managing all of that happening. I just physically don't have the time to come in and help ship. And so my daughter primarily does it. Sometimes, my son or husband will hop in and help her, or she'll get done packing and my son will load them up in the car and my husband runs them to town. So, that's kind of a group effort on those. But I mean, honestly, the logistics of running a business the size of mine, primarily by myself, and then you go into what you price things, it's just um it's a really hard choice to make because then as an entrepreneur, I also go, oh, I don't want to charge that much to my customers. But if I don't charge that much, I do all that work, I pay for all the product, I pay people to work for me, and there's nothing going in my pocket at the end of the day. And there's just no way to sidestep that. I mean, I have a deal with my printers where they're giving me literally like the most discounted price I can possibly get. I have shipping down to as low as I can get it, boxes as low as I can, like everything I have is the absolute lowest price, and it still puts me in that place. And so, kind of what I'm getting at with this is as a business owner, don't sell yourself short and really consider that four times rule. And if you do need to consider in labor, like if you have that commercial kitchen and you're farming all day long and you hired somebody to come in and do the actual cooking for the commercial kitchen, that is part of your cost, not just what you spend to get the product to that point or for the ingredients to the product that you're processing, or you know the power to run your store or your kitchen. You also have to consider in what it's costing you to have somebody there helping you. um like I said, I don't consider in the cost of paying really anybody who helps in the business. I consider them more marketing costs. And so I put that into somewhere in that 2, 3, or 4 times the amount, not the base amount before I multiply it. But don't feel shy because if people want quality products, then they need to be paying quality price. And that's just unfortunately the way it is. I have myself purchased products for a price that was affordable to me or what I felt was more affordable for that product, and have been disappointed in what I had or realized that it wasn't the quality of what I needed. And that's why the small business is coming back and people are respecting that the small business is coming back regardless of the state of the economy right now. And so uh, keep those in mind when you're setting your stuff up. So at that, I'm going to kind of wrap it up. I'm exhausted because I'm sick and I still have to work because I run two businesses and I'm going to cry now. But anyways, if you're interested in running your own business or starting your own business, um, it doesn't matter where you're at on that scale or if you have specific things you're working on, um, I can help. I have my podcast that I mentioned. I have How I Saved My Struggling Homestead and How to Make Money on Your Homestead Business. One is how I kind of got to a certain place and how I did it, like starting with nothing. The other one, the How to Make Money on Your Homestead Business, is really the logistics of how to legally sell several different types of products. Then there was today's episode that just talks about how it all kind of works together. Um, these episodes are all about a year apart, but like I said, I'll link them together. I do have a freebie on my website, Homemade Moneymakers, and it's 4 business plans that you can use to start a homestead business. And even if it's something that you're not interested, like one of them is growing mealworms, it's a great way to make some money and it's cheap. But if you're like, nope, not for me, you can still use that same model to look into something else. And it just shows you how to look up those things and how to find what you need. The next is I have my How to Start a Homestead Business Guide, which is, I think the digital download's only like $25. I would say that I will double check that, but I'll just link it in the show notes. It might even be cheaper. It might be 25 for the printed one. Then I have my quail incubation course, which talks about how at one point we were making $1,600 a month on incubating quail. And I'll backtrack on that. It's my poultry incubation course. It used to just be quail, but I have redone it, expanded it, more downloads, more videos, smaller bites. And it just talks about, it takes all the guesswork out where you're not having to read 10 different books and look up 20 different things online and have to do 3 batches in your incubator before you have a single live one. I take all of that out. That is normally a $97 course. I have it on sale right now for $37 because I know how important it is to save that money going into the new year. So for those of you who are like, I want to start incubating quail going into the new year, making that money, this is the way, this will get you off to the best track. I have links to all the products I use in it and everything. And if you buy my Introduction to Homestead Science course, whether you are getting the digital or the printed, that course comes free with it. So, it's a $97 course that you get in the Introduction to Homestead Science book set, which the digital is $125 and the printed is $175. And you're getting that $97 course right there in it for free. But like I said, it's on sale for $37. I'm not sure when I'm going to end that sale. I know definitely through the end of the month so that you guys are all set and ready to go starting in January with your new year and your new homestead business. I also offer homestead coaching. To start, it's a 1 hour like discovery call. It's $97 and $99. And at that point, I will get all the information about what you're wanting to do, whether it's start a business, scale a business. I can do online businesses, homestead businesses. I've worked with like HACCP and food safety plans. That was actually what I did for several years and did consulting on farms for that. I've also helped people plan their homeschool years, how to budget money in their personal stuff. I'm really good with numbers and I'm really good with like problem solving and thinking outside the box. So then I take all that information and I put together a report for you to implement, and then I follow up with you for a month. So it's a great way to get all your thoughts in order, have somebody else do the research for you, hand it back to you on a silver platter, and then ride your butt to make sure you're doing it. But I will link all that in the show notes. I really hope to get to talk to all of you soon and help you on your endeavors. Thank you for joining me today at the Homestead Education, and I hope that I have given you something to think about this week. To help others find me, please comment and leave a review on your favorite podcast player. You can also follow me on Facebook at The Homestead Education and Instagram at Homestead_education. Do you have questions that you would like answered or just want to say hi? Please email me at hello@thehomesteadeducation.com. Until next time, keep growing!